Hola, everyone. It is Bible study time. Yay. All right. So I am excited about today's Bible study. I've been thinking about what I wanted to do today, but I'm going to get beyond Chronicles, okay? I've had a lot going on in my personal life, and I've just been pondering my own little set of downloads that I've been thinking of and receiving and meditating on, and they all are about what has transpired thus far in the lives of these children, in their history. So we will be speaking to that, and it all is accounted for in the book of Chronicles because, like I said, Chronicles just pretty much chronicles the entire walk of the children up to this point. And not to be beating Chronicles down, just going through it, because I know last Bible study, or maybe it was the one before, I spoke to Chronicles, but I really want to make sure I give it my full attention. So I have some more information that I'd like to share regarding the book of Chronicles with you guys today. All right, so as with anything, if you guys find any of my content relevant, if you find it thought-provoking, if you find it inspiring in any type of way, please subscribe, please click like, and please share. Bless someone else's timeline with this information. I always come forward with thought-provoking content that you can utilize in your daily lives. My content that I deliver in a way that you have to put yourself in these people's shoes. This is your history. This is a part of your ancestral line. This is your walk. These are all rules and testaments that you should live by and ingest to help you navigate the waters and the different paths of your own lives. So if you can, that's why I give you so much background and so much content in regards to the surrounding people and the dynamics that are popping off within the environment, so you can get a real feel of what's going on and you can piece it together on your own. But yeah, so please subscribe, please like, and please share. So let's get it going. Let's begin by asking God to help me in the discernment of His Word. Heavenly Father and Mother, I come before you in love. I come seeking you in all these different pages of this book and in my life in general, all of my interactions and my thinkings and my many ways in life. I look for you in all aspects of you, in all of my activities. Guide me in the direction of your word. Show me your truth. And use me as the vessel today to convey your truth to the children in love and in honesty and integrity. Protect this space. I love you so dearly, and I thank you. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. In God's name I pray. Amen. All right, y'all. Okay, so let's get it going. So, okay, I really wanted to go deeper into the whole Shem and Eber concept, but I'm not going to do that because I went into that this last Wednesday or the Wednesday before. But I want to do an overview as to what's transpired. So, you know, we read in the book of Enoch, which is an apocryphic book. You can find that in your apocrypha. I use this one. This is a one I use. Is pretty good, and the lettering is pretty large, so you can see the words, because I have some books where I got to struggle to even read the text because the words are so small. But in the book of Enoch in the Apocrypha, it really details this fall that happened of the angels. And there's some other really good books also that I reference this information from. But anything, there's a really good book called The Ascension of Melchizedek. The Ancient Mysteries of Melchizedek. Sorry. It details really the priesthood, the Melchizedek priesthood, the angels, Michael, Gabriel, really who they are, why they came, It goes into detail as to who the council is, because there's a council, there's a heavenly council. All these things, when you speak to the angels and them descending on Mount Hermon and them being 200 in total, where did they come from? Who are they? How does this relate? Right? Are they just, angels that are just hanging out somewhere and they just decided to come? Or is there an organized system? And I'm here to tell you that there is an organized system. This body this governing body that governs this planet mimics the heavenly body that governs the whole universal realm. There is order amidst chaos. You must know that. This is a system. And any large system, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a universal system, planetary system, elemental system, earthly system, physical body system, there is order. Every particular part has its own role. There is someone that is over each department. There is a main entity over each department. There's order. Everything is delegated. Even if you look at your own anatomy, your own body, it's one big system. So when you look at the fallen angels that decided to convene on Mount Hermon, you got to know the history behind that. These were what you would call generals. They weren't gods. These were generals. These are footmen within universal systems. Even if I'm even saying that correctly. But they are footmen. They are God's footmen. Soldiers that went rogue. They're rogue generals on earth that came here supposedly because they lusted over the women. I don't want to say supposedly because people get upset when I say that, but they came here. The book of Enoch says they came here because they lusted after the women of the earth. They risked everything to come here and incarnate in the physical and mate with the women of the earth. So when you look at Genesis, the book of Genesis, and it tells of God, the gods coming and saying, let us make man in our own image, in our own likeness. That tells you something. That when these gods, plural, came, they said, the prototype we're going to build off of is us. We're going to make something like us. So when you look in your mirror and you see yourself, you are looking at a visualization of God. These fallen angels, when they came to this planet, I can't really say what they look like. Because upon them mating, they created monsters. But they also gave the knowledge to create monsters. So there's a very fine line as to, were the fallen angels' children actually the giants, or were the offspring of what they created genetically giants? We already know that Jacob, we spoke to this already. Jacob and Rebekah were very good at multiplying head count. I'm not saying that they were creating individuals. I'm saying that Jacob and Rachel, I always get that mixed up, Rebecca and Rachel. Jacob and Rachel were excellent at multiplying head count. They did a phenomenal job with multiplying Laban's sheep. They were extreme asset to Laban. Jacob made a name for himself within the region for multiplying the head count. when you, so I don't want to get off point. I want to focus on, okay, so we know that the fallen angels came, they descended on Mount Hermon, all 200 of them. They had a plan. The plan was that they were going to rebel and they were going to go rogue. This is like training day. But it's 200 of them. They decided they're going to go rogue and they're going to do it their own way here on Earth. Earth was a controlled environment at the time. Earthly women and men didn't know anything outside of what God programmed them to know. These angels came and opened up portals in the mind. Not only did they open up portals in the mind, but they opened up portals in heaven. And this is how they began descending. They just didn't descend just by default. They opened portals, which is a hole, black hole, whatever you want to call it, so that they could descend and others could descend here. And like I said, this place was popping with activity at one time. It was the planetary hotspot. You call it Magic City of the galaxy. It was like that because they had corrupted the integrity of everything. They opened the women up to doing things that were completely outside of their nature. The women that were here were righteous women. They were righteous by default because they didn't know anything outside of the righteous way of life. These angels came, and it said that they came because they lusted after the women. It did not say that they loved the women. They could have easily said the angels came because they loved the women. They lusted after them. There's a difference between love and lust. They came just like that serpent when I read the book of Adam and Eve to you guys. And the devil is one character, conjured the attention of the serpent, told him to rise up and come to him, and he will tell him a word that he will see a profit from. He will see an increase from. It'll work. And the devil did it. I'm sorry. The serpent, the devil called the serpent forward, told him to rise up, and he will give him a word that he could see a profit from. He will see success from. And the serpent did it. And then he told the serpent that he will put the words in his mouth to fool Eve. These are all, when you hear devil, when you hear serpent, when you hear Lucifer, when you hear Satan, I don't even want to say serpent, devil, Lucifer, Satan, all these different words, these are not the same people. These are the commanders of this, what once was a heavenly group of people. I don't want to even say army. They were part of an army. But they decided that they would go rogue and they would come here, and they fell. It said Lucifer fell, and so did all that were with him. They all fell here. And so now they're here. They're bound here. When God got wind of what happened, I'm not even going to get that far yet. So let me back up. The devil, by way of the serpent, deceives Eve, and she transgressed. They have sexual relations that were outside of her upbringing. They were against her moral code. We as women, many of us know what this feels like. You ever been handled in any way, especially when you're young? When you're young and you're really not confident in yourself. Remember that stage of your life when you wanted to be a big girl and you were hanging with your friends and you wanted to have the boyfriend, but you just didn't know how to act around them. You didn't know how to really handle yourself around them because that type of stuff your mom could never teach you. So you had to figure it out amongst your friends or mostly by yourself. And you're not real strong within yourself. And so you don't stand up for yourself, and you don't say, no, I don't want to do that, or no, I don't think that that's right, or no, I don't like that. You don't say anything, you just go with it. This is exactly what happened to Eve. And she is handled by this serpent. And he beguiles her. He gets her to buy in. He gets her to speak that she knows the rules. She states the rules to him. And then he knows he's got her. And then he says, well, you know what? What I'm going to give you is too precious just for you. I don't even think you're worth it. I'm not going to give you this unless you tell me you're going to give your husband this knowledge also. Because I can't trust that you're going to be able to handle this information. This information is too precious for you. And I shouldn't even be having this conversation with you. I'm really doing this because you're special, and I've been watching you for a while, and you look like, you would be someone that could really maximize on this. But I'm starting to see maybe you're not it. That type of thing. We all know that. The master salesman, the snake oil salesman. So now she's bought in. She's like, oh, well, what do you need me to say? I mean, I put it on everything. And she put it on everything. And then before you know it, he's on top. He done bent the branch back and this and that. And she said before she knew it, he was gone. A gigolo. Many of us women understand exactly this whole scenario. It's not embarrassing to say that when you were young, somebody played you out like this. You got taken advantage of by a guy that seemed that his intentions were different than what they actually materialized to be. This is the serpent, the gigolo. He had no intention of being righteous to this righteous woman. His only intention was to corrupt her. And that's what he did. And she was left feeling filthy. She was left feeling exposed, seen, unworthy, unclean, ashamed, embarrassed. And the first thing she did was what? She called for Adam. She called for what she knew was right. And when he showed up, this is how it works. When he showed up, because she allowed him into her. Now even though his body is gone, his energy is all in her. So much so that when Adam shows up, she speaks to him, but it's the serpent speaking by way of Satan, by way of the devil, not even Satan, by way of the devil out of her mouth. This is the spiritual stuff we're dealing with, friend. This thing is mind-blowing. But it's really not once you get to thinking about it. It's very simple. And she beguiles him. And it really isn't her. It is the voice of the spirit that she allowed within her. That same spirit that watered her garden, that watered her roses, whatever you want to call it, and that created a seed within her, which would form into a child, which would be birthed into the earth as Cain, who would grow to kill his brother Abel. So we've gotten beyond all that. And Eve has Cain, and Abel is transitioned. They have another son, and his name is Seth. So out of Seth's line, we get the Shems and we get the Ebers. These are the father and son team that speak to Jacob and teach him all the wisdom that he will need to lead God's chosen people. But prior to that, Adam and Eve give birth after the death of Abel to Seth. Seth gives birth to a son named Enosh, not Enoch, but Enosh. And I was looking into Enosh because really I was looking into Canaan. Okay, this is where I'm going with this because a lot of people, I don't know about a lot of people, I'm just speaking to myself. Canaan and Phoenicia have been a big question mark for me. Like Spirit has been showing me this for years now. I've been on King Solomon and I've been on Canaan, the Canaanites and Phoenicians. And it's constantly unraveling. I took some time away from it because I had a huge distraction I was dealing with. But now I'm starting to get back to it. And there's an abundance of information that will be like a huge piece to the puzzle if we can unravel this whole Canaan, Phoenicia link. So I was reading up on Enosh. And it said that when Enosh was born, the people began to multiply on the earth. Okay? And it was a lot of wickedness. This goes back to after Eve and the serpent, that whole situation. Goes back to after the fallen angels convened on Mount Hermon and decided that they would go rogue. Now, the sons of men, the sons of Adam and Eve, and even the sons of Cain are starting to multiply on the earth. You got to remember who's here. Adam and Eve's son, Seth, and you got Cain. And they're multiplying. Okay? It said that before this time, people did not pray. There was no need to pray because prior to this time, it was kind of like what I told you guys many times if you look at any of my old videos on YouTube. When God deems something over your life, there's nothing you can do to change it. It's fixed. That has been my reality. I use the analogy of having a dream. Like sometimes you can have a dream and it'd be like a really weird dream. It could be a really happy dream, or it could be a really weird dream that you don't know if you can take it as a blessing or a curse. Like, what is this? And you start spending time looking up what did the dream mean and all this kind of stuff. And dreams are real, they're feelings. Like, right? You can look up the meaning of a dream by way of the things that you see in the dream, the animals and the people, and your responses that you find might not sit well with you. Goes back to Joseph, while he was in Pharaoh's prison, and he was interpreting the dream. A dream is a feeling thing. So when you have people in the world that know the science of how to send you a dream. This is an old trick. And it's kind of like that Trojan horse story that I used, where they send you this gift and you're like, oh, wow, it looks innocent, and you let it in and you start to focus on it. And then before you know it, it's a virus, and the enemies are starting to come out of it and attack you. It's the same way with the dream. So when God sends you a dream, even if you rebuke it, if you deny it, if it is of God, it will have no choice but to come to pass. I don't care how much you rebuke it. I don't care how much you deny it. I don't care how much you pray it away. I don't care what type of ritual, what type of spiritual work you do against it. It is what it is. But if it's sent by the enemy, it'll automatically abort it. It'll disintegrate it. You could send it back with fire on it, friend. You could send it back 20, 30 times stronger. That's your right as a child of God. Especially if you know who sent it. or if you know from what circle it's being sent from. You don't even have to know exactly who it is. You can just know the culprit. But getting back to the point, in the days of Enosh, the sons of men were multiplying on the earth, both the sons of Cain and the sons of Seth. And this is when people began praying, because before this, God's word was God's word. They didn't know anything outside of it, so there was nothing to pray about. Everything was provided because you're in the abundance of the garden. You are standing in alignment. You are standing in the totality of God's covering. All of your needs are being met. It was so cold, friend, that if you drop something, if I drop this aquifer on the ground, I could slow down time enough to stop it from falling. I'm telling you. Could you imagine that? This is what the garden was like before all of this nonsense, all these different portals, all these different options, all these different dishes were added to the table. It was real simple. There was no need, there was no want, there was no desire. All was well. So just like anything, now they're faced with a multitude of alternatives. They have a buffet in front of them. More than they need. So much so that they become confused. They lose their way. They lose their way and they forget the name of their father and their mother. They began to invoke. They began to call upon the will. They call upon the will first. And then the mind begins to create just based off of the diversity at their feet. How did the diversity come into play? Because they were given alternatives. They were given different scenarios. If I give you this pen, this one pen, that's all I give you. And then I give you a plant that you see all the time. And I give you a book. You could make 1,000 things just from this one pen. You could make it as a writing instrument. If I propose competition, if I begin to praise you more than I praise someone else because of what you do with this pen, I don't even have to propose competition. Me praising you is proposing competition. It's making that other person feel like they got to go out and do better now so that they can get that same attention from me. This is Cain and Abel. This is what was going on off of this one pen. And then if they feel like, and then I go over there and I say to them, oh yeah, I like your idea on what you did with this pen too. And I start praising you, and no one praises me over here, somebody starts to get hostile. And you let that happen over a long period of time, this pen will turn into a weapon. This is how the mind works. That simple analogy, a writing instrument, could be used for 1,000 different things based upon dynamics, mental and emotional dynamics. This is exactly what happened. Now it is a hot mess. You got the women who have been opened up to what it feels like to be mistreated sexually. They learn the tricks of the trade. They become numb to it. If you get exposed to that type of treatment over and over again, you become numb to the neglect that comes from it. You become numb to the disgrace that you initially felt. It doesn't bother you anymore. So you must remember when Eve, Adam, the serpent, made when they transgressed, God punished them all. The serpent went on his belly. He fell in the hierarchy. The devil, the rogue angel that rebelled from the gate, fell in the hierarchy. All of these beings could go before God prior to all of this and petition. These were God's footmen. Now they are falling so low, they can't even go before God. Now they have to find a righteous man or woman amongst the humans, us, to speak to God on their behalf. Now they are bound to go through us as the vessels, because they can no longer go before the father or the mother. They have to create back doorways in, because they cannot go directly in. They're forced to. They are forced to not be able to enjoy the luxury of being with a woman, because they were gigolos. They weren't righteous men out here laying with these women and making unity and love. They were turning women into tramps. They was whoring them out. And the woman, wait a minute, they can no longer have a wife anymore. It says in the book of Enoch that God's punishment for them was that they could no longer have a wife. That means that they can no longer go into a woman. They can no longer have sexual relations with women, because the problem with the fallen angels, and even what you see in the life of Adam and Eve, is that the transgression was sexual sin. It was not righteous sin. It was sexual immortality. It was sexual, immortality. They were out here being gigolos. They were whoring the women out. Teaching them things that were completely outside of who they were. And many will say, well, okay, great, I can't have a wife, so what, I'll have a girlfriend. A wife and a girlfriend back then was the same thing. It's not like it is now. It was one and the same. If you slept with a woman, that's your wife. Wife and girlfriend was the same thing. They can no longer go into a woman. And her punishment was that she fell from her grace. All of her power was lost. She had to go underground. This is where you can be mad at me, but I love to have the conversation. There's no disrespect here. This is where we get all of the veils over the face and the hiding and the cutting of the clitoris. All of this stems from all that happened way back when. She had to go underground. She was no longer sought as the powerhouse. No longer. None of the kings were coming for her guidance any longer. They were not coming to sit on her lap and have her blessings and her direction. She had to go underground. She had to go and move in silence and hide her power. Because if she showed her power, she would get it beat out of her. She was humbled. This is where you see all of your spiritual leaders, all of them, all your great leaders. I don't care if you go to the African continent, all of your great leaders, tribal leaders, spiritual leaders, they all wear these dress looking things. When you look in the church, the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, they all wearing these robes that look like dresses. This is of the woman. This is the mother. It was the mother that was your first medicinal woman. She is the one that walked the forest and got the herbs and created these solutions and tinctures and concoctions that healed her community. All of that is the feminine. All of that turned completely upside down. Completely. All from all of this nonsense. So I'm going to keep going. We're almost there. So it had gotten completely out of hand in the time of Enosh, not Enoch. And it got so bad that it says here, I had to write it down. It says here, and what did I do with it? Nonetheless, it says here that children were practicing occult practices. The children. The people no longer look to God for guidance. It had become so customary to default to witchcraft and to using their own magical powers to get stuff done. So when we speak to witchcraft, we're speaking to sorcery. We're speaking to a combination of things. Witchcraft could be working anything that invokes a spirit outside of God. Okay? There are many gods, especially after these fallen angels came. They opened up portals. There was many beings coming to this planet, all looking to have their own lots. Many of them are still here because God, when God got wind of it, he shut off the portals. He closed them. And many of them left because they were coming and going. Many of them left, but then there were some that just got caught up in the mix. They didn't leave in time, and they're bound here. They can never go home. I've said this in my other videos. Just like these fallen angels and their children, they're bound here for a time. And these are the gods of the earth. They are the gods of this realm, princes of this realm, because they are bound here for a time. That's why this world seems like we're quarantined in it. That's why. Don't it seem like we're quarantined here? We don't know anything outside of this. We don't remember nothing before this. All we know is that we're trying to all live this life in alignment with what is within our heart, because that's what makes us live in peace. That's it. We don't hear nobody coming back from the other side and really with no real significant information. Nothing significant. It's as if we are here to see what we do at this buffet table. What do you choose to do with your life? That's exactly why we're here. What else is there? Oh, are we supposed to be here so we can create stuff? Yeah, we can create, but are you creating things that will be better? Or are you creating things that will make life better, that will bring joy and goodness? Or are you creating things that destroy, dishonor, discredit, discourage? That's what it is, friend. I'm here to tell you. I've lived long enough. I've been able to trace the hand enough to know that much. Many of us are interact with entities every day and don't even know it just because they look like us. Some of the most angelic beings come in packages that look outside of what we would expect them to look. And they watch to see how you interact with them. Knowing you have more than enough and someone says, can I have 50 cents, a quarter? Knowing you got all kind of change in your bag, but you're in a rush to get to this place or to that place, and you don't even acknowledge them, and you don't even take the time to say, here. That matters. These small things matter, friend. We don't think they matter. We think the glitz and the glamour matters. We think all the stuff we do that gets put on display matters. No. What matters is what you do when you're sitting there by yourself. See, man will create scenarios to see what you do, and they will bring out the worst in you. They will be totally contradictory to what God wants you to do. I'm sorry. They'll be in total contradictory to how you will respond to one of God's scenarios. Let's just say that. Because there's always angelic and demonic beings around at all times. Don't get it twisted. I'm sitting here in this house. Let me show you. If I wave this fast enough, you won't see it. This one item. So imagine a high frequency spirit moving. You would never see it, but it's still there. If you put me on punked and you want me to respond a certain way to see what I do, don't you know that there's spirits around you that already knew you was going to do that? That are really in control of the situation? And that will direct that scenario to go a whole nother way? Do you not know that you're not smart enough? None of us are smart enough to get the true, authentic reaction of a thing. We always want to play God, but we fail drastically. I'm here to tell you that there are beings out here watching you and me and everybody else that get the real reaction from you. And you know it after it's done. You know why you know it? It's a feeling. I'm telling you, many of you are listening to me like, you know what, she's right. It's a feeling. It could come and giving somebody some change. It could come and just smiling at a brother on the bus stop that just looked down and your spirit just said, let me give him a smile. Something just came to me to just want to smile. And I could see it in his eyes that he appreciated that smile. That's the trueness. That's what you can't create. So there was much wickedness in the world, and everybody was leaning on their own magic, their own will. They were all leaning on all of these other idols. Oh, I got this magic pen that I got from Babalua Orenge, and he prayed on it, and he did it under the full moon in Mozambique, and he sent it here in lamb skin, and it's going to solve all my problems. So now, this is your God. You got all your faith in this one pen. And you know why it's going to work? Because you got faith in it. It's going to work just because you are misplacing your power. You don't understand the science behind who you are. You don't understand the science behind what makes something powerful. And you're giving all that is of the God within you to this pen. Same way with that job. Oh, if I only get this job. And then once you get that job, boy, you love that job. That if you don't have that job, you don't feel whole. If you lost that job, you feel like offing yourself. Life isn't meaningful anymore. Where is God? God doesn't love me. I'm a loser. You've been giving your power to that fake idol. You've been worshiping false idols. Stop worshiping false idols. Whether they be people, places, or things. You got everything you need within you. This is the kingdom. And this is what the scriptures are all about, baby. I'm telling you. Stop looking outside of you. So the children were practicing occult practices. I mean, they had 8-year-olds out there, 6-year-olds. It was a way of life. And it got so wicked that people forgot the name of their father or their mother, and they forgot who they were in this whole hierarchy of things. And they were giving all of their power away to these false idols. Many of us do it right now. You might go to church every Sunday, but you got that little thing in your purse that you think holds all the power, and it does because you believe in it. But Lord forbid something happened to it. You're the one that give it the power. What's more powerful, the candle or the flame? Or you? Who's more powerful? Took me a long time to figure these things out, y'all. I done been around, baby. I done did a lot of things. And that's why I don't let things shake me. I get concerned, but when it comes to witches and all these types of things, you got to know who's sourcing the power. And you got to know the rules to the game. And the rules to the game are you must stay in alignment to the God that is within you. You must not allow yourself to get distracted and deviate yourself off to the tricks of these people, because they take you off balance. And once you become off balance, then you are vulnerable. That is called iniquity. And this is what happened. The children were completely out of balance. They had forgotten their way. So God found no other way. Father and mother said, we got to flood it. They got to go. It says here, and if I can find it, I got to find it. What did I do with that? I'll read it here. I got to read it though, because in this text that I saw, here we are. And this is from the Midrash. This is a Jewish text that goes over, gives you a broad overview of this book, of the goings on of these children, the children of Israel, and all of their journeys. And it says here, 4 things changed in the time of Enosh. The mountains became rocky. The deceased began to rot. People's faces became similar to those of apes. And people became susceptible to demons. Well, there it is. There it tells you a lot. In the times of Enoch, this is prior to the flood. The mountains became rocky. How do mountains become rocky? They're painting you a picture of earthly scenarios without saying them. Mountains become rocky because the earth is shaking. There's earthquakes. A mountain becomes rocky because the underground earth is shaking and is breaking them up. Mountains also become rocky because water coalesces on the rocks, mud, and it over time dries back up, and then they get to shaking and you get rocky mountains. But mostly rocky Mountains come from the rock being shaken by strong earthquakes. Tectonic plates breaking up, all of that type of stuff. Deceased began to rot. Why can a body not decompose? Because of moisture, floods, water, earthquakes, floods. People's faces became similar to those of apes. How does this happen? Genetic manipulation, mixing, taking one species and mixing it with another. Many people think all of these diverse animals were on the earth way back in the times of Enosh and the times of Seth and the times of Adam and Eve. They were not. A lot of these animals that we're seeing, including cats, were created. They were blended. So when one sees the Noah's Ark scenario and they say, well, how could they do that? I mean, how do you put all of these animals on the ark? It's just like having a human. There's not a huge boatload of different types of human species. They could technically fit all on the ark. The original human species. Same way with the animal species, friend. Everything else is just a mixture. You going out here like Jacob and Rachel, and you're mixing and you're multiplying head count. People became susceptible to demons. How do you become susceptible to demons? By having no spiritual shield. You're open. This was the problem with Adam and Eve. After the fall, they were vulnerable. They felt naked. That's why Adam needed all these different resins and herbs. He had to create that which he compromised. He had to anoint himself with that which was stripped away. When you remove your spiritual covering, you are susceptible to anything. Anything could come upon you. Anything. They lost their way. They were invoking spirits. They were aligning themselves to spirits. It was a mess. And they're walking the earth open and vulnerable, because Satan and all of his fallen angels had opened the portals. So now the earth is filled with that which is not of the earthly realm. And the children are lost, and they're praying to these false idols. And they no longer have the righteous covering of God. And they're open and vulnerable. Vulnerable is all a setup. These fallen angels and these gods that have descended created stumbling blocks for these children for them to be used. It's like giving candy to a baby or taking it away. They set up these stumbling blocks so that the children would stumble. And after they stumble, then they stumble again, and they stumble, and it's just ongoing. Same way right now. We are in a terrible situation right now. We're in such a terrible situation, we don't even realize it because we become comfortable with it. They've become so good at this thing, they know how to do it. This has been done so many times. It's child's play. They know what to do. They know what not to do. All they need to do is keep you comfortable and blind. And you will attack one another to defend it. Because you don't know the difference. You don't remember. It says here, witchcraft and sorcery became widespread as well in his times. We are told that even young children were well trained in occult practices, and that when the time came for Noah's flood, the people did not heed Noah's warnings because of the trust they had in their magical powers. There it is. That didn't say it all. That's what happened. The flood pops off. Noah and his descendants are the only ones on the flood. And anyone that wondered why Noah didn't let them in the boat and why did they wait so long, there it is there. They were depending on their magical powers. They no longer heard the voice of God. They had so many voices in their spirit that they couldn't even distinguish the voice of God. They never took the time to hear it. Like I said in my post on my Instagram page, I called it when Lucifer whispers in your ear. If you do not nurture the voice of God, if you do not take a time to cultivate a relationship with the God within you, anybody can come upon you and impose themselves an imposter of God upon you, and you'll fall for it. It is your responsibility to know these things. You can't be mad at anybody if they come upon you and fool you, because you've had your whole life to tune in. You mean to tell me you've woken up every day and went to bed every night and pondered your path every day, and you don't know the voice of the God that is within you? There's no excuse for it. And I know if I can say that, God is really not going to be able to honor that. I truly believe that God is going to come, Jesus, God, and his all of his angels, and they're going to be like, I don't know you. Many people, he's going to say, I don't know you. And many people that you judge and condemn because they're living their lives out loud and they're struggling with the fleshly aspect of them and their spiritual aspect, without lying and without covering up like there's no problems. Many of those people, they're going to embrace and say, I heard you. I heard you every time you called for me. I felt you searching for me. I'm telling you. I'm sure as sure as I'm sitting here. So, the flood occurs and they began to build again. They're traumatized, y'all. I'm about to wrap this up because we're approaching an hour, but they're traumatized. So traumatized that the whole Babylon analogy, I can go a million different ways with it. Because Babylon, it speaks to the corrupt nature manifesting itself again. Babylon speaks to the corrupt nature. Cain's children all died in the flood. So none of Cain's children were alive. But what was left is what was on the boat and what was in the aquatic. This gets me to Phoenicia. This is important. God is showing me that the Phoenicians, these whole Canaanites as in general. See, the Canaanite region is that region, that rocky region, that mountainous region, and that coastal region. Remember, when these children got off the boat, they got off the boat on the coast. They began to populate the world from the coast upward. When you look at the sea is bound by a set of entirely different laws than the land. The sea is bound to maritime laws. The laws of the land do not carry over to the sea. It's like a different world. The Phoenicians were the first group of people to take to the sea. They are the first master shipbuilders. The best that ever did it. These are masters, friend. It's humbling. I can go on and on and on about them. I'm proud of the Phoenicians. I speak it with great pride. The Phoenicians are the Biggest help to Israel. Israel was birthed in Canaan. It was birthed in Canaan. And Israel's first mother was Egypt. When you look at the Hebrew language, you're looking at the Phoenician dialect. They created it. When you look at the Bible, you look at the English language, you look at language in general, the Phoenicians. They created the linguistic system. When you look at Samaria and the cuneiform, which is the beginning of all of it, they're not Phoenicians, Canaanites. When you look at Egypt and the hieroglyphs, Canaanites, Phoenician. It's highly interesting. All of your banking systems, all of your architecture, all of your geometric systems, all of your grids and layouts of cities and all of that industrial ways, Phoenicians. Master builders. There's never been any better. Masters. Laid out all of the important areas in America. Europe. So more to come on that. I'm still pondering that. But these are the people also that Israel is fighting. The Philistines, different sects of them, different divisions of them. If it weren't for the Phoenicians, Hiram, Solomon would have never connected with Queen of Sheba. Yes, Queen of Sheba. These are the walks of these people thus far. They've come through many hills and valleys. These are a monumental and a miraculous group of people, very courageous. Very courageous. Mighty warriors, mighty intellectually, mighty spiritually, just mighty all the way around. And now they are at a place where they have been sold into slavery, into Babylon. It's a sad estate. It's a sad estate. Because the heart of the people is still there. The heart of the people is still there. And, I don't have an answer to why. I would like to create that, and I pray that God incline me with an answer to why. I would only be assuming, and I don't want to do that. I'm searching in the darkness as to why they keep transgressing. I've tumbled it around in my mind so many times. I'll be driving just thinking about it, like, why? I have an idea, but I need to continue tilling it. So, maybe you can add a comment below or something and let me know your take on it. But, I'm really wrestling with the Canaanites, the Phoenicians. And really, I have an idea why God allows these children to be up under all of these people and to be blessed by these people, but not want them to mate with these people, including the Egyptians. The Egyptians blessed Israel in a way. Israel, many people talk about the Egyptians and how terrible they are and this and that. You can say whatever you want. I get it. Okay. But on the same hand, the Egyptians were miraculous. There's none better that did it. You got to give credit where credit is due. And God Almighty had the children in an infancy state go and suck the breast of Egypt. We must bow and give reverence. You ain't got to like it. God did that. If God didn't want the children there, God would have put them somewhere else easily. But there was something powerful and necessary from Egypt. See, all of these people, all of these ideologies that we have, a lot of them are repackaged and put under different names. And they're all spread out around this planet. They're the same stories, though. But we want to make one bad and the other one better. And you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, it's the same story. God had them children in Egypt for 400 years. As infants. All they knew was Egypt and Canaan, the Levant. It's interesting, and I don't really want to speak to it. I'm going to get there. I have a very, very strong opinion on it, but I haven't tilled it enough. I've spoken to it a little bit in the past, but I'm going to keep tilling it. So, till next time we have our Bible study, I'll be out of Chronicles. I'm not going back to Chronicles. Be out of Chronicles and on to something new. I've spent a lot of time on 2 books before this. I spent a lot of time on Joseph, because I could relate to Joseph. I spent a lot of time on David, because God knows I could relate to David. And I've spent a lot of time on this Chronicles. Because I'm doing it just for myself as well. I'm doing it so I get the most out of this just as much as you guys do. Be good to yourselves and be good to each other, okay? Peace and love.